party. I hope you are well. I hope your Sunday is going good. It's Chris here, and of course, me and my team are super sad that we're not able to gather tonight for obvious reasons, but we are excited about what this could look like moving forward for us as we figure out some creative ways for us still to stay connected as a family and also to learn more about Jesus and what he has in store for our lives. Before we jump in, one of the things that we'd love to make you aware of is our brand new LVV Youth Instagram page. This is a place for you guys to get some content, but also for you guys to stay connected to each other and other people as well. We'll be posting loads of stuff on that, daily content as well. So please head over to our Instagram page at LVV_youth and give us a follow. As you'll be aware, as a community of House Party, we're going to be journeying together a book called Jesus Is by Judah Smith. I have the book here in my hands. Some of you guys will have this book, other of you guys will have downloaded it on different platforms so you can journey through it. And in these next few moments, I just want to give us a little bit of an introduction to this book and to share some thoughts with you guys that you can think about throughout the week as we journey this together. I love this book. I've read it so many times myself. In fact, I read it a number of years ago and it's something that deeply impacted my life and changed my life, completely changed how I viewed Jesus. And the chapter begins unpacking this idea of super bad or sort of bad. That there's somehow a scale of good to bad people. That there's categories that we can put people into. And just as you walk down a supermarket and you'll see aisles with different categories of food in it, we often can sometimes do the same thing to people. We put people in these categories. They're either good people or bad people. They're sketchy people or they're wise people. We can put them into all these different kind of categories. And sometimes we can do that with people, can't we? With our friends or family, we can subconsciously begin to put them into categories, whether you're better than them or not, whether you're smarter than them or not, whether you're funnier than them or not, or whether you're better than them at sports or not. We can begin to put them on the scale or categorize them. And even sometimes in our relationship with Jesus and with God, we can begin to think that he maybe puts us or other people into categories. And Jesus addresses this idea of categories and scales in his interactions with a man named Zacchaeus. You see, Zacchaeus was a short guy and he was also a tax collector. And tax collectors didn't exactly carry with them a very good reputation. They were like modern day drug dealers. They didn't have a great reputation in their towns. And Zacchaeus hears that Jesus is passing by, and at this point in Jesus' ministry, hype has begun to gather around him. People have heard stories of what he's done. They've heard stories about who he claims to be. And as he's passing through the town, crowds of people come out to see who he is, to see what he's doing. And Zacchaeus, because he's short, has to climb a tree to get to him. As Jesus is walking through the town, and as Jesus is up a tree, they lock eyes. And Jesus tells him, Zacchaeus, I'm coming to your house to have some food. If you're reading this, as I was, I thought that's a bit forward, Jesus. You don't exactly just invite yourself to people's houses to have food. But that's what Jesus did. And you see, what I love about this is that eating food with people, a dining room table, sitting down for a meal with people was your way of saying, this is where I stand socially with this person. You see, just like if you went on your Facebook or your Instagram and you were looked through your photos, the people who are in those photos with you, we're fair to assume that they're your best friends because what we observe and see. And in the same way, the people who you ate with, the people who you spent time over meals with, was the way of saying that these are your best friends, these are your people, this is your circle. And this was a big issue. You see, Jesus was claiming to be the Son of God. He was claiming to be perfect in all his ways, and yet he was hanging out with who the Pharisees described as a notorious sinner. On the scale, if they had it, the Pharisees put Zacchaeus as the worst of the worst. And yet Jesus said, this is the sort of people who I hang out with. And so Zacchaeus and Jesus sit down to a meal. They sit down behind closed door and have a meal together. And we don't know what happens over that meal. The Bible doesn't tell us that. But what we do know is that he walks into that room and walks out a completely different person. Zacchaeus went from being someone who was greedy and selfish, who took things off people that he shouldn't have took off people, to being unbelievably generous. and his reputation shifts immediately from his actions after the conversation. What I personally love about this is that we hear that Jesus, someone who is perfect, goes out of his way to spend time with the people who are considered the worst of the worst. You see, he didn't just tolerate bad people. He didn't just have some time for bad people, but they were the people in who he called friends. They were the people in who he sat down and had food with. And in that interaction with the gays, everything changed, and I love that. And I don't want to say too much more around this chapter. You guys can read it for yourselves. It's amazing what happens in these interactions and what we learn about the person of Jesus through this. But we learn that he is our friend. And what I would love you guys to do is to work through a few questions as you read this book. Number one, and the first thing that I would love for you guys to reflect on, is I'd love that you reflect honestly. Do you ever find yourself putting people into categories? I know if I'm honest, I've done that before. I think we all do sometimes. And begin to reflect on the times that you do that. Second thing that I'd love for you guys to pay certain attention to is in page 12, we read a bit of a paragraph about who Jesus is. It begins to tell us that he's not our accuser, but he's actually our friend. Spend some time around that. Maybe even write that down on a bit of paper or a journal that you have to begin to reflect on the truth that is held inside that passage. The next passage of text that I would love for you guys to hang about with in this book is found in page 20. It talks about these stages. And what's helpful is maybe for you guys to read through that and to figure out what stages you're in. Even discuss that with a parent or a friend, how you've read through this chapter, how you discovered how Jesus views us, and even where you find yourself today in that conversation. And the last thing that we would love for you guys to think about, to reflect on, but also to act on, is focused around this idea that we find in this chapter, that we all have one common denominator, and that's that we all need help. And I think if we're all honest, we all do need help from time to time. And as we find ourselves in this COVID-19, in this new normal, that we find ourselves isolated, I think it's fair to say that we oftentimes find ourselves needing help. And so what we want you to do is to be help for someone, to reach out to someone who you think might need that. It might be a word of encouragement. It might be just checking in with them to see how they're doing. It might even be sitting down to pray with them and to pray into their situation and circumstance. But we want you to be an encouragement to them, to realize that we all need help and that you can be that help to other people as well. And so guys, have fun working your way through the first chapter of Jesus. We can't wait for next week to check in with you guys to hear about how you guys have found it. Keep an eye out on our Instagram page. We'll be posting stories asking you guys about how you found the first chapter of Jesus, things you found interesting or challenging, how you got on with the questions. We can't wait to hear back from that all. But in the meantime, stay safe and we'll see you next week. Bye!